Hello everyone, back tuning in to today's second video. We're going to do the GWV Sunday Roundup for today's second video. So this is your usual eclectic mix of this and that for your Sunday afternoon viewing pleasure. So earlier on today we released the first analogues update for the autumn of 2018. You can find that video here on the homepage. Just scroll down the page a little bit and it's above the pollen count. Later on today that video will be placed on the autumn updates and forecast page. There'll be a written summary that goes with that as well, just summing up everything that we talk about in that first analogues update. And coming up later on this afternoon, we'll have a look at the ECMWF and Meteo France seasonal models, and that will be on a specific page for the ECMWF and Meteo France seasonal model update. So that'll be coming up later on this afternoon. Busy day at the website. But this is GWV Sunday Roundup, and I'll get on with your Sunday Roundup in a moment. Just got to say thank you to another patron. So I've had another patron for GWV. We launched the GWV Patreon page a couple of weeks ago now. Been a big success. Big thank you to everybody who has become patrons for GWV. This is the GWV Patreon page, where you can come and pledge a monthly donation, anything from just $1 a month and upwards to GWV. You become a patron for GWV by doing that, and I'll leave the link to this page in the description box at YouTube, also linking to it from all of the pages at GWV. So we have had another patron. I'm going to say big thanks. As I said, anybody that becomes a patron or a donor to GWV will get a shout out in the videos unless they ask not to. So I'm going to say big thank you to our latest patron, Stephen Chant, has become our latest patron. I'm also going to say happy Father's Day to Stephen, because his daughter Kim has asked me to say that. So happy Father's Day to Stephen from Kim, and a big thank you for becoming our latest GWV patron. And say if you would like to become a patron for GWV, then you can just do it through our Patreon page. If you want to make a one-off donation, I'll just talk you through that. Then you can come to our PayPal page, which is this PayPal.me for GWV, and you can just make a one-off donation via this page. And as I say, all donations are greatly received. It is helping us to pay for the website. So big thank you to everybody who's become either patrons or has become a donor for GWV, and doing something really special. And again, happy Father's Day to Stephen, and thank you for becoming our latest patron as well. Right, I'll get on with the GWV Sunday Roundup then, and we're going to start off with the Central England temperature. So this is the latest for the CET from Hadley, provisional up to the 15th, so up to the middle of June. We are now standing at 16.0, so very warm June so far. That's an anomaly of over 2 degrees above average, and that follows on from April and from May, which both again had anomalies very close to 2 degrees above average. So we seem to have returned, had a lot of this last year, we seem to have returned to sort of around 2 degrees above average type temperature anomalies. Remember, that's set against 61 to 1990, so if we were to compare it to a more modern average, it wouldn't be quite that high. But we are in a very run of warm weather and have been since April. Before that, though, of course, February and March were cold months with an anomaly there of nearly 1 degree below average. But it certainly has been very warm first half to June. We did expect to have a warm first half to June. In fact, we expected quite a warm and dry month, if you remember, from our summer analogue. So June always looked like it could be the highlight of the summer. But of course, we've got a long way to go yet. It may well be that we can sustain this warm and dry pattern into July and August as well. Have to wait and see. So have a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies across the Atlantic and the Pacific next. So this is how things were looking with those sea surface temperature anomalies last week, when we did last week's Sunday Round-Up. So 3 areas that we're specifically interested in. We've got the equatorial Pacific Ocean just there. We've got the northern Pacific Ocean just here. Of course, this is the northern Atlantic Ocean over there. That's how things were looking with the oceans last week. This is the very latest, so very little change in terms of the Pacific. We continue to see an unraveling of the La Nina signature that we had at the start of the year. That's gone. We are back to ENSO neutral now. You'll notice there are some slightly warmer than average sea surface temperature anomalies appearing here over in the eastern part of the equatorial Pacific. Overall, though, this still doesn't really look like a signal for El Nino. You'll notice all this blue that's down here off the coast of Peru. That's always one of the areas that I look at to see where things may go in a few weeks or months' time. So if you've got a lot of colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies down there, off the coast of Peru, of the coast of Chile, I should say. You've got a lot of colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies down there. It's not one of the things that you tend to associate with an El Nino, really. So the modelling is still very keen to take us into an El Nino in the second half of the year, albeit quite a weak El Nino. But I'm just not all that convinced about that, really, at the moment. Not with all those cold and average sea surface temperature anomalies off the coast of Chile. But we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see where things go through the course of the summer. Certainly this eastern part of the equatorial Pacific is warming up a little bit. Further north in the Pacific, so relatively warm with sea surface temperature anomalies. Really, there are a few areas that are quite cool, but overall quite a warm Pacific Ocean at the moment. We still have this very unusual situation going on in the Atlantic with these very significantly colder than average sea surface temperature anomalies to the south of Greenland, and also here sort of through the tropical Atlantic Ocean as well. And then in between we've got this warmer area across the central part of the northern Atlantic. So it's a cold AMO, cold Atlantic multi-decadal oscillation signature. When you get that horseshoe shape of cold sea surface temperature that we see there, that's a cold AMO signature. The Atlantic multi-decadal oscillation is an oscillation of sea surface temperature anomalies that occurs over interdecadal periods. So we've been in the warm phase of the AMO actually since around the middle of the 1990s until just recently. We had around 20-25 years of warmer than average AMO conditions. We are expecting the change to the colder than average AMO period to occur through the 2020s. It's a little bit early to be seeing that change to the cold AMO at the moment, but this is probably the precursor to it. I would suspect what will happen over the next couple of years is that we'll warm the Atlantic again, have one final sort of year or two of the warm AMO. But this is signs of where things are going to go in the 2020s. We are going into the cold AMO, and that is definitely a signature for the cold Atlantic multi-decadal oscillation. So whilst that probably won't last for the next year or two, I think it will warm back to the warm AMO for one final time. You'll see a lot of sea surface temperature anomaly charts and maps that will look like that through the 2020s and through the 2030s, and probably into the 2040s as well, because these AMO periods are sustained over, as I say, several decades, sort of 20 to 25 years typically. So the cold AMO is on the way. That's definitely the sign of it. The Atlantic is telling us that it is going into its cold phase of the AMO very, very shortly. Haven't showed you this for a little while. These are the ice and snow cover maps, so you'll be seeing a lot more of these when we get to the winter updates, of course, which will begin in early September. So just to bring you up to date with what's happening with snow cover across Russia. So we do have a little bit of snow here in the far northeastern part of Siberia, and also close to the Arctic Circle just there. But generally generally most of the snow now has gone across Siberia. You'll see those last patches of snow going away in the next month or so, and then we will be completely snow-free across Siberia and Russia pretty much to the end of August, and then early September you'll see the snow patches beginning to appear again. And one of the things we look at in the winter updates is how quickly that snow cover advances across Siberia and Russia, how quickly it gets to Europe. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, of course, in the winter updates. We'll also be keeping an eye on the how much melting is going on in the Arctic, how much sea ice melt we're losing. That yellow area is where we've currently got Arctic sea ice. You can see already got a little bit of melting starting to take place close to the shores of Siberia around there. So, of course, we are going to see more melting taking place, and we'll reach our lowest point in terms of Arctic sea ice around the early and middle part of September. So this is showing us how much Arctic sea ice we've got at the moment. This is from the Arctic sea ice news and analysis page at the National Snow and Ice Data Centre. This orange line is the total Arctic sea ice extent that we've got for 2018. The grey line is the 30-year long-term average from 81 to 2010. So you'll see we have been well down on Arctic sea ice through this winter. That's January the 1st, just there below average, and remaining below the long-term 30-year trend, even to where we are right now, which is just there. If we fill in a few years, we can see how the current Arctic sea ice position compares to last year, to 2017. We're very close to 2017 in terms of Arctic sea ice at the moment. That's 2016, so that was even a little bit lower than this year at this point. That's 2015, again, very close to that. That's 2014 and very close to that. 2013 was actually had more Arctic sea ice than we've got at the moment at this point in the melt season. Let's get rid of those other years. So you'll see we are under 2013. 2013 was actually very close to the 30-year average at this point. And then the final year I'll put in is 2012, because that's the death spiral year. You'll remember we talked a lot about the death spiral in Arctic sea ice through the sort of autumn of 2018. You see how that green dashed line just collapses down there. It was a really, really big melt season. At this point, though, it wasn't actually doing too bad in the melt season of 2012. It was holding up quite close to the 30-year average, and we're actually under 2012, or have been under 2012 for this year's melt season so far. Now they have actually aligned just there. So we'll see what happens. Will we get another death spiral in the late summer and the early autumn? Will we go down to that level, or will we do what we've been tending to do over the last few melt seasons, which is kind of trend close to 2012 until we get to the bottom of the melt season, and then kind of diverge from 2012 and do something like that. It'll be interesting to see, and we will be keeping an eye on that, of course. Right, Arctic oscillation observed and forecast chart. So the black line here tells us where we've been with the AO. The red line's at the end where GFS models are forecasting the AO to go. Now, this is just an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere. It's not driving anything. It just tells you what the atmospheric setup is doing over the Arctic. So when the Arctic oscillation is positive, you tend to have low pressure up over the pole, and you'll strengthen the westerly flow, essentially, which in summer can mean that the Azores High ridges in, and positive AO in the summer can actually be a sign for relatively warm conditions if the Azores High is ridging into the UK and the west of Europe. If the Arctic oscillation is negative, it will tend to be a signal for high pressure over the pole for blocking, and in summer that's normally quite a cool and and wet signal. So this is where we are right now with the AO. Been in a long positive phase of the Arctic oscillation since around the middle of April. Just here we went positive with the AO, and we've generally been staying positive throughout up to where we are right now, which is just there, close to neutral with the Arctic oscillation. But it looks like you'll be taking off again in the next few days and going into very strongly positive territory in the week ahead. After that, generally staying around neutral or positive with the AO. There's no sign of going into a negative phase of the AO, certainly not before the end of June, which would be this period just here. There's no sign of a drop down into negativity, such as we see there back earlier in the year, back in March, was the last time we had a sustained, and early April, last time we had a sustained run of negative AO conditions. So no sign that we're going back to negativity of the AO in the foreseeable future, so to the end of June. Just staying either neutral or on the positive side of neutral with the AO in the coming couple of weeks. North Atlantic oscillation is very similar. Again, the black line tells us where we've been with the NAO. The red line's at the end where GFS Sunwell's forecasting the NAO to go. We've had both the indexes in positive territory over the past couple of months, which tells us that the Azores high has been strengthened. The Azores high has been ridging in across the UK and west of Europe, which is one of the reasons we've had a relatively warm run of weather. This is where we are right now with the NAO. We are in positive territory with the NAO. It could go even more positive in the next week. After that, generally, we've got a little bit of split appearing within the GFS ensembles for the final week of June. Several of the ensemble members are keeping the NAO positive. A few are going negative. It looks like at the moment they're outlier members, but one or two maybe just hinting at a little bit of a change in the state of the NAO by the time we get through to the end of June and early July. If that happens, it might be a precursor to something a little bit more unsettled starting to take place, but you would probably need to see the AO going negative as well. If we have the Arctic oscillation and the North Atlantic oscillation both going negative, that will probably tell us that a pattern change is appearing, and we're likely to go into something rather cooler and wetter. But at the moment, it's only very slight hints that the NAO is going potentially a little bit negative there, and the AO looks like it's staying solidly around neutral or positive right to the end of the month. So not enough to go on there to be thinking about a pattern change at this point. At the moment, it looks like, certainly for the next week to 10 days, the Azores high is going to be a major player. So we see this depicted by the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles. We're looking at Loughborough in the Midlands today. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Loughborough, and we're starting warmer than average up there over the next few days. It's actually a little bit cooler today, but it is going to be going quite warm over the next few days. That's around Wednesday, particularly for the south of the country. There will be a lot of warm and humid air being brought up via the Azores high. Now, at the end of the week and into next weekend, we see a drop in the temperature. That's only just appeared in the last couple of days, but it is going to go rather cooler, actually, at the end of the week and into next weekend. There could be some quite chilly nights. Doesn't last all that long, though. As we go into the final week of June and the opening days of July, that period just there, generally the ensembles are going warmer than average once again. So overall, quite a warm couple of weeks coming up. Clearly, no sign of a real heat wave. So there are one or two hot outliers there for the last days of June. So there is still a low chance that we might get some genuinely hot weather in the last days of June, and that would be temperatures to 30 degrees or more. So there's a few ensemble members doing that, but not enough really to suggest that we are going to have a heat wave in the last week of June. But it does look solidly warm to very warm through this final week of June and into the opening days of July. And a hot spell can't be ruled out, because one or two ensemble members are still going into what you would class as a hot sort of category with the upper air temperatures. As far as precipitation is concerned, still continuing with lots and lots of dry weather, so barely any rain coming up for Loughborough in the next week. 1 or 2 precipitation spikes there as the temperatures drop Wednesday to Thursday, so a few showers might push through, but really the next week looks dry. The last days of June and the first days of July, a few precipitation spikes are appearing, a few more I should say, precipitation spikes are appearing, but again not enough to suggest that we are going to go into a more unsettled phase of weather. So for the time being, particularly for England and Wales, the prolonged dry spell is set to continue. Service temperatures for Loughborough looking like this, so a bit up and down, starting off a bit cooler today, under 20 degrees, but we're back to 20 degrees or more tomorrow. Turns quite warm actually as we get through to Wednesday. We could see temperatures topping out above 25 degrees. After that though, a bit of a drop in the temperature as we get through to the end of the week and next weekend. There's some cooler nights coming up then as well, going underneath 10 degrees Celsius, before the temperatures begin to lift back up to 20 degrees or above through that last week of June. So you clearly see that little bit of a cooler phase appearing there at the end of the week and into next weekend. But overall it does look quite warm essentially through the rest of June. That's how the temperature anomaly is looking. Now, surprisingly, that's coming out a little bit cooler than average. I think what's accounting for that is that even though we're going to have some really quite warm days in the next 2 or 3 days, after that we get the drop in temperature towards the end of the week. And that will be most noted at night. I think we will get some significantly cooler nights coming up towards the end of the week and into next weekend. And so overall, this temperature anomaly, it is a little bit surprising that it's showing this, but overall the temperature anomaly from the 17th to the 25th of June is coming out a little bit cooler than average for the UK and for Ireland. Precipitation anomalies look like that. So, as I say, the dry spell continues for England and Wales. Look at that from the 17th to the 25th of June. We're talking about kind of like 5 to 10% of average, really, across much of England and Wales. Very, very dry indeed. It is a little bit wetter for Scotland and Northern Ireland, actually a bit wetter than average across Scotland. But for England and Wales, if you're waiting for rain or proper rain, there may be a few showers coming through here and there, but if you're waiting for proper rain for England and Wales, the wait will continue. That's how the GFS is looking for Wednesday then. So the Azores high is ridging into, let's change the colour, the Azores high is ridging into France and southern England, bringing up very warm air and humid air too into the south. We've got this area of low pressure further north, so that will bring rain to Scotland and possibly Northern Ireland. But for England and Wales, it looks a very warm day on Wednesday. Now on Thursday, that system has pushed away into Scandinavia, and we've brought a weak cold front down. We're bringing a weak cold front down across the country, so that accounts for the chance of a few light showers in the south on Wednesday to Thursday. It's going to be a very weak front. The main thing it will do is lower the temperature. So this is our cooler phase coming up at the end of the week. As the wind turns into the north, that'll bring cooler air down across the country. And then by Friday and into next weekend, we've got the high pressure centred just to the west of Ireland. So that's bringing the cooler air down from a northwesterly direction. There'll be a lot of dry weather, maybe a few showers down the east coast, but high pressure is still ruling the roost. It's just that its position to our west is pulling down slightly cooler air from the north. Into the last days of June, so this is to Monday the 25th of June, very little change. The centre of the high pressure is still just to the west of Ireland, so it will remain very quiet, very dry. The difference is that we will be bringing down some cooler air from a northwesterly direction. Through to day 10, so that is the chart for day 10, which is Wednesday the 27th of June, and we find the high pressure almost sitting over top of the country then, but its centre maybe still a little bit to our west. Nevertheless, this would be warm to very warm again through to the final days of June. Then we take the high pressure northwards as we close out the month. We move that high pressure up towards Greenland and start to pull cooler air down from the north once again. So this is how we are ending June and going into the start of July. This is Sunday, the 1st of July, where we have that high pressure just to our west again, lots of dry weather, lots of quiet weather, and after that warmer phase around day 10, it's probably back to lower temperatures once more. This is how the temperatures are looking actually over the next few days. So this is today's maximum temperature chart, where we're seeing temperatures in the east of around 18 to 20 degrees, but it is cooler in the west where it's cloudier as well. Tonight, quite a warm night coming up, temperatures holding up in double figures. Tomorrow will be a warmer day in the south and the east, temperatures into the low 20s Celsius. That's Monday night to Tuesday morning, very warm in the southeast, temperatures holding up at around 16 or 17 degrees, so really warm and humid air coming up early this week in the south. It is cooler though in the north and the west. That's Tuesday. Tuesday's maximum temperatures in the southeast could go up to around 25 degrees. That's 77 Fahrenheit. A warm night on Tuesday night. And then the peak of the temperatures this week looks like it'll be Wednesday. In the southeast, this is going for 27. That's 81 Fahrenheit. It might be a bit hotter than that in central London. So Wednesday will be a very warm, maybe locally hot day in the southeast. But you'll notice it is turning much cooler out to the north and the west, and so by the time we get through to Thursday, a real drop in the temperature has taken place, and the southeast is struggling to get to 20 degrees on Thursday. Most parts of the country actually into the teens, upper teens Celsius, so a much cooler and fresher day on Thursday. I mean, quite a cold night, or quite a cool night anyway, for the time of year on Thursday night, with temperatures across central and northern Britain anyway going down into single digits, and only around 9 or 10 degrees at best for much of the south and the southeast. Another quite cool day on Friday, and that leads us to another cool night on Friday night to Saturday. Saturday looks another pretty cool day as well, with temperatures into the teens Celsius for most of us. So this accounts for that cooler than average temperature anomaly that I just showed you. And then we go through to Saturday night to Sunday, and temperatures, their minimum temperatures are beginning to warm up a little bit. So by next Sunday, the temperatures are starting to recover after that cooler interlude. We're going back into the 20s Celsius in a week's time, and then that takes us to quite a warm spell again by day 10. ECMWF looking like that, so high pressure to the south on Wednesday, low pressure to the north will bring rain to the north, but very warm conditions in the south. Early next week, well, late next week I should say, the high pressure remains in control of the weather, but we do drop the temperature a little bit at the end of the week. We've already seen that, and then we go through to next weekend, and generally just keeping high pressure influences going with the ECM right the way up to day 10. High pressure is in charge of the weather, bringing lots of dry and fine conditions. The centre of the high pressure is always just a little bit to the west of the country, so not hot, but even so, warm, and in the sunshine, very warm temperatures are possible, certainly into the low to mid-20s Celsius there by day 10, Wednesday, 27th of June. And then finally, the GEM looks like that. So again, high pressure bringing very warm conditions to the south through the middle of next week. Excuse me. Then at the end of next week, it turns cooler. We get cooler air coming down from the north. High pressure then very close to the country as we run up towards day 10. It's just lots and lots of dry and fine conditions. That is the chart for day 10 with the GEM, and high pressure is well and truly in control. With all that high pressure going on, you'll not be surprised if I close out with this. It's the 10-day accumulated precipitation chart from the Weather Outlook, and look at that for England and Wales. Very, very dry in the next 10 days to come, with barely more than sort of 3, 4, 5 millimetres for most parts of England and Wales in terms of rainfall in the next 10 days. It is wetter for Scotland and Northern Ireland. There we're between around 20 to 50 millimetres, particularly for western and southwestern parts of Scotland and down to Northern Ireland. But for England and Wales, very, very dry weather in the next 10 days. It's already been very dry, and so I don't think we can talk about a drought yet, but certainly we are in a very prolonged spell of dry weather, and it's going to continue at least for the next week to 10 days across England and Wales. Right, so that's your GWV Sunday Roundup done and dusted. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and let us know that you are enjoying the content. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you would like, please give us a donation via PayPal or become a patron for GWV. Enjoy the rest of your Father's Day, and that's all for now. Thanks for watching.